Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And welcome back to the 458. Today I want to talk about my 2-year ownership experience with the 458. And I want to talk about some of the running costs over the last 2 years. The 458, in my opinion, is the best mid-engined V8 car Ferrari has ever made. Now, I know some people will disagree with that, and that's their opinion. Well, let me change that phrase. It's the best modern mid-engined V8 Ferrari has ever made. Now, the 360, the F430, the 488, and now the F8 Tributo, I believe is what it is, are all excellent supercars. But when you look at the design, the power, the presence of a 458, I'm not sure how you couldn't choose the 458 over those other supercars I just mentioned. Now again, I know guys, that's just my opinion. But the 458 has been fantastic over the last 2 years. I purchased it with about 2,400 miles on it. I'm the second owner, and I put about 2,000 miles on it over the last 2 years. I know guys, I don't drive it that much. And that's one of the things that I want to do more of in 2019 is drive the 458 a little bit more. But with that new GT3 here, that's going to be tough, because that GT3 is, I'm falling in love with this thing. But nevertheless, the 458 is still my dream car, and it's still the only Ferrari I'll probably ever own. And I'm okay with that. I'd love to keep the 458 for as long as I can. I'd love to have it in 15 years. But you know how things go. You never can say you will or you won't. My best hope would be I'm able to keep it forever. Having said that, let's talk a little bit about what I think about the performance. Now, I'm not a track guy, and I'm certainly not qualified to give you guys any factual statistics. But what I can give you is my experience with the 458 as it relates to performance. I will tell you, although it's naturally aspirated and it doesn't have a big torque number, it is exceptionally quick. It is just as quick as, from, I would say, probably 0 to 60, it's just as quick as the GT3. From what I can tell from my reviews of the 458, 0 to 60, anywhere from 3 seconds to 3.3 seconds, which is awfully quick. So you don't get any quicker than that for this price point. GT3, the new one that I have, the 991.2, is probably in that same range. So that's why I say it's just as quick as the GT3 and a 0 to 60. Far as just on public roads and hitting the throttle, and the reaction time is awesome. Again, it's naturally aspirated, so you don't have any delay. You hit the throttle, it goes, especially if you're in race mode, which just gives the car a more of a sharper, quicker, more rigid feel to it when you put it in race. Most of the time I have the car in sport because I like it as a luxury GT car. although it does have DNA from Ferrari's great racing heritage. But I don't look at it as a track car. I look at it as a really fast, elegant GT car. You look inside in the interior of the 458, you got leather everywhere. You got a driving zone on the wheel here with carbon fiber and leather. It's just a really nice place to be. Even though I got the carbon fiber bucket seats, they're still pretty comfortable. Now, I will tell you, when I picked the car up 2 years ago from Ferrari Fort Lauderdale, I actually drove it home, which is about 2 hours from Fort Lauderdale. And I will tell you, at the end of that ride, these seats were not very comfortable. But just your normal driving around town, it'll be fine. But I would tell you, long distance, yeah, you certainly are going to feel it. This car for me has been an occasion car. I mean, I have not driven it a lot. 2,000 miles over 2 years is not a lot for one of these. I guess for one of these type of cars, I don't think it is. Now, if you got a hypercar or a car that's very sensitive to mileage from a losing value standpoint, that's not a lot of miles. But for a 458, that's very little mileage over the last 2 years, because this particular 458 is a 2015. So you can drive it. I mean, it's not going to lose much value by driving it another 3,000 or 4,000 miles over 2 years. It'll be about the same value. I don't think these cars are losing value extremely fast, but they're still depreciating. I would estimate my 2 years of ownership, I've probably lost about $20,000 to $25,000 of the value through depreciation. That would be my figure. I could be a little bit high, a little bit low, but on average, I think between the 2 years I've owned it, I've probably lost anywhere between $10,000 to $12,000 through depreciation, which ain't too bad for this particular type of supercar. Now, what have been the costs over the last 2 years? Now, when I purchased this car in 2017, it still had 1 year of original factory warranty left on it. So my first year of ownership, which was 2017, I actually had a minor issue with a relay switch. When obviously these modern Ferraris are computerized, and the computer pretty much runs the car, or at least the mechanical components and the electrical components of the car. So the computer did not get a relay from the rear brake lights when I would mash the brake pedal, even though the brakes obviously were working fine and the rear lights were working fine. The rear light, once I mashed the brake pedal, the computer was not getting a read from the system that the brake light was working. So I had to have a new brake light relay switch put in. That required the 458 to go back to Fort Lauderdale and have it fixed. But it didn't cost me anything because it was under warranty. Outside of that, guys, over the last 2 years, I've not had any mechanical problems or electrical problems with the 458. It's been bulletproof. So these modern Ferraris are, they've just been perfected. That's not to say you won't have little electrical issues, because I think that's the biggest thing with these type of cars, and they're so sensitive because the onboard computer is operating the entire car. Any little thing that computer doesn't get a sensor from or doesn't get a relay from, it'll throw a check engine light. And for me, being 2 hours away from the nearest Ferrari dealership to have it looked at, sometimes could be, a nuisance. But good for me. I've only had one of those issues. The car was gone for about 2 or 3 days. They sent a flatbed over to pick it up. They flatbedded it back. I didn't have to pay for anything, so I was okay with that. Outside of that issue, I've had 2 annual services on the 458. And the great thing about that is, guys, don't have to pay for any of the annual service, because with these modern Ferraris, at least 2012 and newer, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but Ferrari gives a 7-year maintenance package, and that can be transferable. So the new owner gets it, the original owner gets it, and then anybody that I believe that buys it from a Ferrari authorized dealer will get it transferred to them as well, which is real nice, because I've taken advantage of that over the last 2 years. I know from talking to people, for a Lamborghini Huracan, the annual service is $1,500 to $2,500. So I gotta believe Ferrari is probably right there in that ballpark. So if you think, $1,500, $2,000, that would have been an additional $4,000 I'd have had to pay for annual services had I not had the 7-year annual service pack from Ferrari, which is real nice. So again, annual services has been zero. If you're in the market for a Ferrari 458, you can go 2010 all the way up to the 2015. They're pretty much identical. The reason I went with a newer model, 2015, is this was my first experience with a supercar, and I wanted to make sure I had warranty, original factory warranty on the car, just in case something went wrong with it in my first year of ownership. I also wanted the service pack. So, your 2010, your 2011, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, don't get that service pack. So I wanted all the bugs and all the kinks worked out. And since the 458 range started at a 2010 model, I wanted to get the very last model that was produced, which is a 2015, because by that time, any little issues on the previous year models would have been worked out. So that's what I did. But you don't have to do that. You can find you a 2010 with miles on it, and probably can get that purchased for in that 150 to 165 range. So if you're in the market, put the 458 on the short list. I know the Lamborghini Huracan and the Audi R8 and the McLaren 570 are competitors. Porsche 911 Turbo S is a competitor, but for me, this right here, the presence, the history, the performance, the everyday drivability of this thing wins hands down for me. If you guys are stopping by the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing and share the video.